And yes, that means it's go time. That means it's time for the Week 13 Waiver Wire special here on the Audible. Cecil Lammey, Sigmund Bloom, Dr. Jene Bramel to go over injuries, hot waiver wire pickup, shut him down, hold on, you know the drill. Bloom,
Yes.
it's Week 13. Now, years ago, we kept doing this show the entire year, and we'll keep doing that, except for Week 17, because that doesn't matter, and you shouldn't be playing season-long fantasy in Week 17. But the list is shorter this week. So before we get to Dr. Gene and the quarterbacks, just kind of a quick reference, because there still are plenty of leagues where waivers are closed and people are going, what is this? Why is there a waiver wire show?
Yeah, look, at Football Guys, and I feel like when we're talking to the Audible audience, kind people. I mean, since we've been able to do this show for 15 years, so they must be kind. They must be very tolerant and understanding. And we serve 100% of our audience, which means that even if 95% of leagues don't have waivers, 5% do. They're using the apps. This powers the apps. And also, it's just a chance to spend time together. I think now more than ever, reminding each other that we're out there, that we're still humans with connections. And also, there's a whole other layer here, Cease, too. I don't know how to even go about like whether to broach this or not, but it's just, this is an odd time to be an avid fan of football, to be a fantasy football player. This was a week, I have to say honestly, going into the Sunday morning, Sunday 1 a.m. kickoff, I didn't really know if I had my line. Not because there's just too much to contend with. So, it's been quite a ride. We're not over. It's not over yet. And there will be championships to hand out, including hopefully a Lombardi trophy.
Hopefully your internet will make it through the show.
Yeah.
I forgot to ask you any update on that. Anyway, hey everybody, Dr. Jene Bramel will talk us through the injured quarterbacks here in Week 13. Dr. Jene, where is your picture? And everyone go watch the recent interview. Ghetto Boys, we can't be stopped. Dr. Jene, take it away. Okay, Bloom, let's get into this. Your list, upgrades, downgrades, waiver wire report. And again, a smaller list this week, but still plenty of things to get to, including, Mitchell Trubisky. And hey, who the hell cares if they're losing as long as he stays in and keeps performing like that, 5 to 10%. Obviously, with the Tua injury continuing, people thought he would play last week. He didn't. Fitzpatrick is a 5 to 10%er. Both of these two are at the top of your list.
And in each case, we don't know if they're going to be the quarterback for sure going forward, but at least for Week 13, it looks like it'll be Mitchell Trubisky against Detroit. And he did move the offense better than Nick Foles did. And we will see about Week 13 and Tua Tagovailoa, but it's Cincinnati, and it's Ryan Fitzpatrick. Fantasy football's more fun. Football's more fun with Ryan Fitzpatrick. So, two very interesting situations here, Cease, is like with Miami, it's Ryan. It's like the Drew Lock situation. It's Ryan Fitzpatrick on the bench if Tua Tagovailoa is healthy. He's not healthy right now, but we know that's kind of a subjective measure. And then in the case of Trubisky, it's Matt Nagy saying, "Yeah, sure, why not? Why Trubisky? Well, that's a fine quarterback for us. Who cares?" Which really, I think, shows where Nagy is right now, and then also throwing his players under the bus, which I guess is kind of that sinking ship feeling in Chicago.
I think Diego has it best. The season is a weird sort of theater, which means that's why we're talking about Mike Glennon.
Yes.
Colt McCoy. People may wonder, where's PJ Walker on this list? And that's something to continue to watch over and to see what's going down there.
Yeah, and with Walker, there's two layers to it. I mean, first, let's just talk about, hey, Glennon played one of the better games of his career against the Browns and should be the starter going forward. Hey, maybe he'll get DJ Chark back, and who knows, playing Minnesota this week. Certainly, it's nice to see him. As he said before the game, he's just going to let it rip. Although, really, why were you waiting to let it rip before? He's made a lot of money. Colt McCoy. Well, even when Colt McCoy lets it rip, well, see, it's like what have we said? Pop gun. I've
He's a
said
pop gun, yeah.
pea shooter. You know, uh, maybe a little slingshot arm there. So that fits right with Jason Garrett, but there's still some possibility in 2 quarterback superflex leagues of some value here. Who knows who's going to be end up on that COVID list next week? And then you have Walker. So Teddy Bridgewater did seem like he was hurt at the end of the game. The larger thing here, and I love Teddy. Said this on the recap show, Cease. I love Teddy, but I think we've seen that Teddy's a very good backup quarterback. He did for the Saints, and he just doesn't activate all parts of the offense. So I do think Matt Rule would be well served with the season basically gone as far as the playoffs to see what PJ Walker can do. And the Panthers aren't necessarily going to be poised for one of those top 3 quarterbacks. But see, let's look ahead to January, right? Maybe this is like a 4 quarterback class or a 5 quarterback class. So there's still, for the Panthers, a pretty big decision to make. And I'm not saying that PJ Walker is the answer, but this is a very valuable time to get to look at him. I don't know what his fantasy viability would be. He needs to make better decisions in the red zone. But I think PJ Walker is a good name to bring up. The reason he's not here this week is I don't think it's worth holding him through a bye week to see what's going to happen, even in your 2 quarterback superflex leagues.
Our man Rob says, is Jalen Hurts
going
to finally get a chance?
I can't remember who said it, Cease. And we speculate about this a lot, but I think Carson Wentz just makes too much money to bench. I mean, $60 million hit next year. The other thing about Carson Wentz, and maybe if the Eagles are being rational, this is some Thursday night stuff, right? We don't get a chance to do this enough. There's not going to be a Thursday night game this week. There's going to be a Tuesday night game next week. Anyway, I think the Eagles, if they're really looking at this accurately, because there's all the stats going around this morning, I'm sure you've seen them, right? Like the biggest drop off in passer rating over 1 year or something like that. Like, is it that Carson Wentz has suddenly forgotten how to play football? Or Carson Wentz has been hurt so badly, mentally or physically, that he just can't play at the previous level? I think it's an organization-wide breakdown, right? It's a personnel management breakdown. It's a coaching breakdown. And it's a breakdown from Wentz himself, who just doesn't look like he has confidence right now. But when you're looking at a $60 million cap hit, if you move on from in the offseason, you just can't say, we want to see what this other guy can do. And Cease, I'll say this too. With Hurts, is this really what you want to baptize Hurts in? This is like baptizing him in acid. This offensive line, this team right now. So I don't even think if they do think Hurts can be their starting quarterback of the future, why would you start to have him imprint all of his habits in this environment? So I hope that there's actually some sense to why Carson Wentz continues to play.
Yeah, and we'll leave the Thursday night stuff alone for Thursday night because I got a lot to say about that Wentz thing. But we will shelf that and we'll go to Dr. Jene Bramel, who joins us to talk about the injured running backs here in week 13. Dr. Jene, what are we looking at? Okay, Bloom, again, shorter list, but Cam Akers, 50+%. And what are you waiting for? Basically, is the line 50+%. Swing your sword. And I don't know why you waited this long to swing it. But anyway, do it.
Yeah, finally gets that big run. I don't know that they're going to go to a Cam Akers-led backfield, but I can see it trending that way. So you saw what he could add. The other thing that was somewhat comforting was that they let him finish the drive and get the touchdown. So there might be some deference there. At this point in the season, with I don't know how many fantasy running backs we feel okay about playing, 15 or something like that, maybe at the most. Yeah, the fact that Akers could come on and see, we've seen much more striking ascensions in December than Cam Akers in this offense. So I think it's time to make sure that Cam Akers is not on someone else's bench, even if you never take him off of your bench.
Next guys up are Myles Gaskin at 25 to 50% as the Dolphins are trying to figure out their backfield. And then Devontae Booker with just Josh Jacobs' injury situation, something worth watching. And certainly the Raiders could say, who are we playing this week? Oh, what? Yeah, shut him down. We can go ahead and go with Booker. 25 to 50% for Gaskin, 20 to 40% for Booker.
And Gaskin should be the starter. You did see DeAndre Washington, and they said Gaskin was close last week. You did see DeAndre Washington get some more work as the game went on, but he wasn't particularly striking. Matt Breida, that's sad. I think that, unfortunately, in a more diluted way than we say about Kerryon Johnson or Sony Michel, Matt Breida is just going to be one of those running backs. It's not so much that injuries have robbed him of his upside, it's that he can't build any momentum in his career because of the frequency of his injuries. And it should be Myles Gaskin's show. It's not Salvin Ahmed's show, as he has a shoulder injury. And then there's Booker, and they said that Jacobs' ankle injury isn't severe. It's not that bad. He has a chance to play. But we've already seen the Raiders at times manage their backfield, giving Booker, about 1/3 of the work, and 2/3 of the work go to Jacobs. Booker sometimes been very productive with that workload. Does that maybe shift to half and half? We're seeing the Saints doing more of that with Murray. Murray even outgained. Murray, by the way, not in the waiver wire this week because hopefully you picked him up weeks ago. Similarly with Jamal Williams, who also, by the way, Jamal Williams and Aaron Jones, half and half. And see, over the time we've done this show, 15 years, we've watched the rise of running back by committee. We've watched the rise of third receivers or slot receivers continuing to be greater and greater parts of fantasy football. We've watched tight end remain a wasteland. But maybe we're going to watch load management for running backs when we get to December, when we get to the point, especially for playoff teams, the idea of trying to preserve something instead of using these guys up. So Booker fits in that mold for sure. And maybe John Gruden's learning something about not running his running backs into the ground. The Jets up this week. So if we had the prospect of a 50-50 Booker-Jacobs committee, even if Jacobs plays, Booker's the healthier back. Booker would be the back to get the work at the end of the game. Why are you going to use Josh Jacobs at the end of a game? You're in the lead by 2 scores whenever he's coming in with a bum ankle. And I'm still not convinced that Jacobs is going to play this week. I'm still not convinced that Jacobs is going to stay healthy when he does get back out there.
Yeah, that's why they need to figure it out if they want to make any sort of postseason run. Carlos Hyde is there at 10 to 20% by himself, but we can go ahead and throw in the rest of the guys, which include Frank Gore and Ito Smith, both 5 to 10%ers this week.
And with Hyde, we just saw, I don't think it's going to stay Hyde getting like twice as much work as Carson. Carson looked good. Carson was involved early. But Hyde, again, this is a Seahawks team. Cease, what's Russ doing now? He's not cooking. Is he a waiter, a busboy, washing dishes? He's not the chef anymore. It's the running game. And the defense is getting better. So Carlos Hyde, again, if he's getting 50%, and Seattle has a schedule coming up, the Giants, the Jets, Washington. These are all games where Pete Carroll and Brian Schottenheimer will run to their heart's delight because those offenses are not going to keep up with even Russell Wilson coming and wiping up your table and taking all the dishes back to the dishwasher. Geno Smith gets to be the dishwasher. I don't know. Frank Gore. I just love getting to talk about Frank Gore. I don't know how much longer we're going to get to do it. If the Jets had reasonable functional offense, Gore would actually be a pretty valuable pickup right now. It looks like they're going to go with him for the rest of the year, or at least that's what the indication was from how they didn't use Josh Adams, didn't use Ty Johnson in the game against the Dolphins. Again, they're facing the Raiders. Maybe the Jets have a chance to win in this game because the Falcons beat them 43-6, and Ito Smith outplayed Brian Hill. And he came on as the game was getting more out of hand, scored a touchdown. So maybe if Todd Gurley can't go this week or Gurley continues to have problems going forward, Ito Smith could be the guy we want there, not Brian Hill. There was a question about Deontay Foreman. And, I mean, yeah, you want to have, if we were going back over, we gave you a couple of weeks of being very thorough in ranking the backup running backs' priorities. Foreman's still there. I think Jeremy McNichols splits the work with him in a very distinct way that they don't do with Derrick Henry right now if Henry were to go down. And then, of course, there's Darrington Evans complicating this. So I mean, Foreman is still someone that you want to add at the end of your bench. We've got a question about that in the chat room, but he's still one of the very low priority backups because of that split role and because Henry's going to continue to be one of the most durable running backs in the league.
It is time for Dr. Jene Bramel to join us once again for injury news when it concerns the wide receiver position. Dr. Jene, take it away. I always want a better intro for Dr. Jene each week, Bloom.
Yeah.
And then all I end up doing is saying, take it away.
Dr. Jene to the operating room.
Dr. Davis, telephone, please. Dr. Davis, telephone, please. And if you know that album, then you know what I mean. Jarvis Landry, 50+% as the first wide receiver. And how much value? Tons of value, Bloom. And again, what are you waiting for?
And he might have been dropped, especially in short bench leagues, because the upside wasn't there. Upside against Jacksonville. But this week it's Tennessee. So can Jarvis Landry stay hot? It's great. It's great to see what he can do for this team. It'd be great to see Jarvis Landry in a playoff game. Too bad not with Odell Beckham, but we can celebrate what the Browns have done, what Kevin Stefanski has done. I can't remember which guest it was earlier this year, Paul Chart, I think, that we could say, like, hey, the Browns have something going now in the front office, in the coaching staff, on the field. They've got the ship turned around in the right direction, and Jarvis Landry is one of those guys who's been playing with the same intensity, the same commitment through all those rough waters, and he led them to what should have been an easier win against Jacksonville.
T.Y. Hilton is 10 to 20%, and Alan Lazard is as well. And both of these players, we've been waiting Lazard to get healthy and Hilton just to do something worth 10 to 20% now.
Yeah, it's just in time for the Texans, Cease. I'm just being kind of superstitious here that when T.Y. Hilton plays the Texans, then there might be something there. And he did get the touchdown last week. Finally, first touchdown of the season for him. We also see Alan Lazard with Marquez Valdes-Scantling. He was active, and I saw something with the prop bets now, Marquez Valdes-Scantling played at least a snap, so all the prop bets became, binding bets. So he was out there, he was active, but he didn't do much. So that could lead to Alan Lazard being somewhat valuable, especially with Philadelphia coming up this week, and we'll see if the Lazard King can rule.
The Lazard King, I like that. Bloom, people are wondering why isn't Kiki Cutie higher, but he is the next one.
Yeah.
And the only one to talk about at 5 to 10%.
Yeah. First of all, I got to say, this goes out to the love of my life, Kate. Get it for the big on camera. If I'm on.
Don't pull your hamstring.
Yeah, he's right. There he is. Yeah, it's seriously seized. Yeah, I'm glad you don't pull your hamstring. I think I almost threw my back out putting socks on. COVID and comfort eating, not exactly a great combination. COVID times. The socks are back. I said I wasn't going to bust him out just because he scored a touchdown, but now maybe he's higher. See, it's probably because I'm hurt. It's probably because there were so many times I thought we were going to get over the hump with Kiki, and then Bill O'Brien intervened. And now fate, as fate may have it, has really put him front and center in this pass offense with Will Fuller's 6-game suspension. And it's really interesting, see, so I'm curious. We could have or should have said at some point, jokingly, but we don't like to joke about this stuff, Will Fuller is still healthy. There must be a PED violation, right? I mean, it's like Occam's razor or detective work. Wait a second. Will Fuller is still healthy and still being able to turn on the afterburners. What's going on here? So that opens the door for Kiki Cutie. Kenny Stills released. Randall Cobb on IR. We might see Isaiah Coulter. Cease, Rhode Island Rams. So we'll see. But he's going to have a lot of opportunities. Remember, he got open deep, which is barely missed by Deshaun Watson. You're also going to have him going up against Indianapolis this week. So we will see. I don't know if I'll be bold enough to put QT into my lineups, but yeah, I think that if I didn't have a rocky history with Kiki QT, that I probably would objectively put him higher.
Yep. At least we'll see Coulter because we're not going to see Aaron Parker.
No.
So there you have it. Let's go to the rest of the wide receivers here. And that means Chad Beebe, Colin Johnson, Olabisi Johnson, and hell, throw in Coulter if you want, Bloom.
Yeah, hey, well, Coulter, this is more, and starting this week in Buy Low, Sell High, Snorkel Scuba Submarine. So absolutely, Coulter's the kind of name. And when we can get a chance to see these players in December, that makes them even more exciting to have percolating, incubating on your dynasty benches. We'll see if Adam Thielen's back from COVID this week, but if not, we saw Kirk Cousins, very productive, very efficient. Olabisi Johnson, a possession receiver. Chad Beebe, the ultimate redemption with that game-winning touchdown after he muffed that punt. And then Colin Johnson, we talked about him extensively on the recap show, but a long receiver with some speed, some skill. We'll see if DJ Chark's back from his rib injury. But if not, going up against Minnesota, Mike Glennon obviously has some chemistry with Colin Johnson. So hopefully you already picked him up in your deep dynasty leagues to stash him on your bench.
Okay. And I have to thank Jason for this because this might be the greatest intro that I will continue to use on and on because Dr. Jene Bramel is up to talk about the tight end. So it's time to turn and hit your head and cough. It's Dr. Jene and the tight end position. Take it away. Okay, Bloom, let's get to those tight ends. Again, smaller list, but Robert Tonyan, 15 to 30%. Mike Gesicki, 10 to 20%. Let's talk about those two first.
Yeah, you like Gesicki because Ryan Fitzpatrick has a chance to keep running. That's basically where we are. Devontae Parker, for that matter, is you see the value highly dependent there. But there's still upside. There's still downfield targets. Going against Cincinnati this week, you have to like that. Remember, it was Evan Engram getting free multiple times against Cincinnati last week. So if it's Ryan Fitzpatrick, you're liking Mike Gesicki. And then Robert Tonyan, 2 games in a row with 5 catches, 2 games in a row with a touchdown. Big Bob Tonyan, even with Devontae Adams out there. We thought we'd crack the code that when Devontae Adams was out, Tonyan was going to get Aaron Rodgers' eye. And when Adams was out there, Tonyan was not going to have much to go on. And Tonyan, oh my God. I feel so bad.
Dude, I can't pronounce Breida, so.
Well, I just feel bad because Tonyan, very sheepishly, because this is how I would be. If I somehow became notable for anything, Cecil, people could be calling him people could call me like Zygmond, and I would just be happy that I was in the story, and I wouldn't say anything. Tonyan took 2 years before he said, actually, it's Tonyan. So I'm sorry if you're out there, Big Bob, listening here. So you see that, and you see on the other side of those passes from Aaron Rodgers, who's playing very well. Could we have forecast that the LaFleur-Rodgers marriage, they're just making eyes at each other now. They're just looking across the room like, hi, I love you, hi. It's amazing, the evolution of that relationship, and Big Bob Tonyan, part of that.
Yeah, as KGB says, Roberto Grande.
Grande.
Yes, roll that R, ladies and gentlemen. And it is Trey Burton. It is Hayden Hurst. It is Kyle Rudolph. They're all 5 to 10%ers and maybe a couple of extra 1%ers, Bloom. But let's get through the 5 to 10% list.
Cecil, can I just say I really like it whenever you add in your 0.5%ers and 1%ers.
Ha.
It's one of my favorite parts of the show. Always interested to see who that is. Trey Burton, for about 10 minutes of game time, was maybe the best offensive player on the field for the Colts. Barely heard from him after that. But it's Houston too the next 3 weeks, the Raiders in between. So give a chance if you have to do a what the heck tight end. Likewise, Kyle Rudolph. Let's see if Irv Smith is going to be healthy enough to play Jacksonville this week as a potential what the heck tight end. Austin Hooper got in the end zone against Jacksonville last week, and Harrison Bryant should have caught a touchdown but dropped it last week. And then old Hayden Hurst. Again, with Hayden Hurst, we thought we had the skeleton key. If Julio Jones is out there opening things up, Hayden Hurst has more room to operate. No Julio, no Hurst in your lineups. If they said no Hurst on my roster because Julio's banged up, you might want to go back in there, pick him back up for the matchup against New Orleans. Probably see Julio back out there. Either way, some hope for Hayden Hurst.
Some hope out there for Hayden Hurst, and then to Drew Sample, 1% Bloom, and KGB also brought up Jordan Akins.
Yeah. Oh, and also Diego brought up Gabriel Davis. In your I would suppose Davis will be about the level of Kiki Cutie, like a 5 to 10% if you're looking at Gabriel Davis with John Brown on IR. Jordan Akins, he drops 2 touchdowns. Cease. I mean, this is one of those ones where Are we going to go back in? Another thing is Kahale Warring getting his feet wet out there. So I just don't know. But you're right to say that Texans tight end position. Gordon Thomas is on the Patriots now, right? The Texans tight end position could yield something for us. And I suppose if you look at team tight end stats, Texans tight end is close to a tight end one this year. But it's been split 2 ways, now potentially split 3 ways. That being said, all of the targets that are freed up with all of these receivers being out has to go to someone. Maybe it's Duke Johnson. Maybe this is Duke Johnson's time to shine.
Yeah, because people automatically think Fuller's down, that means another wide receiver. No, it could just mean spread it around to other weapons, which include running backs and tight ends.
Yeah, absolutely. And Drew Sample was the guy. He had a fumble last week, but he also had 4 receptions, 5 targets from Brandon Allen. So maybe that's who Brandon Allen is looking for. Second round pick, Drew Sample, as we march on in the waiver wire. And by the way, let me take a moment out before we get into our emotional segments. I don't know when waivers are going to run in your league this week. Check.
Yes.
Because FFPC is not running them until Thursday night. There's no Thursday night game. So in some ways, the football gods are looking out for fantasy football. Because if there was not a game until Wednesday, if there was a game Wednesday afternoon and then another game on Thursday night, that would leave a very short window for us to do all of our roster management. But because there's no game Thursday night, that makes things a little bit easier. Again, we should say this. If you are enjoying fantasy football, if it's giving you something, some sort of solace, some sort of release, some sort of distraction, thank your commissioner. Thank the people who not just are running things and make sure people are, paying their dues or showing up for the draft or starting a valid lineup or getting somebody off of IR that doesn't belong on IR. But at the beginning of this season, and it's funny because we did this, right? We did all of our prep for this year knowing that it was going to be a football season like no other. And I think the folks who stepped up to commissioner the fantasy football, is that a verb? To commish a fantasy league, they didn't know what they were signing up for either. And they were signing up for something much more complex. We tried saying, well, these kind of rules will help more IR slots and come up with a different payout structure maybe if the season ends early. We never could have envisioned any of this, right? I mean, no, we weren't talking in August about like, well, if there's a game that's rescheduled for Tuesday and then for Wednesday, you have to come up with. So thank you to all the commissioners out there who kept these leagues going forward so that there can be some sense of continued emotional and time buy-in and whatever that gives us, because they have signed up for something that was much more, I think, than they bargained for.
Yes, and all due respect to all commissioners, because you usually sign up for a lot, and this season has been
right as it is
a lot. Yeah, it's shoveled on some more, shall we say? Bloom, I think I woke up on the wrong side of the bed. I really do. I really do. It's kind of that thing.
I hear you. That's what oh man, let me tell you, I was in a mood until like 9 or 9:30 local time today, because I got up, I had to do all the school stuff, and there was, there's so much, there's so many layers to peel back here, Cecil. But I will say this: I still enjoy seeing your smiling face, and I enjoy seeing all the faces and avatars and folks that we get to see, and it's still a shelter here. But yeah, it's going to be a cold winter, and we can help keep each other warm.
Yeah, keep each other warm, and sometimes it's more cathartic than other times. So whether you're having a good day or bad, we are here for you. This is certainly our oasis. It's our little island, and we certainly appreciate that all of you are here with us as we ask for your participation. And in week 13, Bloom, it's time for everyone to say it with me. Cue the chat. All right, Bloom, who are the week 13 shut them downs?
Throw them in the Sarlacc pit, or something like that. Like that new episode of The Mandalorian a lot. It was good.
Yeah, with Ahsoka Tano, that was awesome.
Yeah, Rosario Dawson. Shut them down. I can see shutting down a lot of quarterbacks this week in typical one quarterback leagues. Like quarterbacks where you're just like, I'm not even going to tempt myself, right? Like I'm not going to tempt myself to play Cam Newton. or Daniel Jones, Teddy Bridgewater. He's going through his bye. Why are you holding him? Derek Carr. What can we really count on from Derek Carr no matter the matchup, even the matchup against the Jets? Just Tua Tagovailoa already with the injury. Andy Dalton with what are we down to now at left tackle? A couple of traffic cones. So this is bad. This is all very bad. At running back, in a short bench league, Giovanni Bernard. What is there really going to be for you with Giovanni Bernard? Mike Davis. I'm not going to hold him through the bye. I believe enough that Christian McCaffrey is going to come back, and also that Rodney Smith, Trenton Cannon will get work. Brian Hill, overtaken by Ito Smith, even if Todd Gurley's hurt. Darius Slayton. Pop gun doesn't shoot very far. Not to Darius Slayton's range. Tyler Boyd. I mean, again, it's Cincinnati. Could Tyler Boyd or Giovanni Bernard or someone have a good game? Emergency depth. Look, if you need emergency depth, if you look at your running backs and wide receivers and you only have like one guy you trust after your starters, okay, maybe you're more likely to hold on to him than to take a chance like on a Kiki Cutie or something like that. Antonio Brown. Yeah. Is this like a champagne confetti moment? Cease. We're shutting down Antonio Brown? Are we shutting down Antonio Brown? Because he's on bye this week. He caught 2 balls last week. The Bucs are 1-3 since they signed him. His role is getting smaller. Scott Miller's getting healthier. Scott Miller actually looked better with Tom Brady than Antonio Brown have. Are we shutting down Antonio Brown?
Should have known better than to fall in love with you. Yeah, you should have known better. I never picked up Antonio Brown.
Yes. Shutting down. Well, now watch him have like 30 catches for 500 yards in the next 3 games.
Right. Well, they are saying more Ronald Jones, and something I wrote about on our newswire at Football Guys is like, watch the Bucs shift to like, oh, we're just going to kind of limit Brady.
Yeah, run the ball 40 times.
Play defense, limit Brady. It's what the Broncos did to win the Super Bowl with Peyton Manning.
The more things change, see. I thought that was a problem with Jameis Winston, right?
Exactly.
What a year, 2020. Travis Fulgham. Why is Alshon Jeffrey playing 35 snaps and Travis Fulgham playing 37? Why? And that's not even like in the top 5 things that are wrong with the Eagles offense right now. We could go on a Miles Sanders rant. We could go on a play calling rant. We could do a lot of rants. See, if the Eagles were actually playing like in-person fans right now, they'd be throwing car batteries out of the stands. You know what I mean? Right. They'd be throwing like grenades at the field or something, knowing the Eagles fans. Love you, Eagles fans. Love your passion and your commitment. Jalen Reagor, another one. I mean, what are we waiting around for there? So the Eagles offense, a sinking ship also, but they're still only half game out of first place.
See, Bloom, I was thinking, you're thinking car batteries. I was thinking, 1, the jail would be full at the stadium, and 2, they'd be throwing like feces.
Feces. That's true. You go. The monkey house. I mean, I would understand. I only think of car batteries because didn't they throw batteries at, or is that baseball?
Denver did that against the Raiders. They packed snowballs with batteries, and then Lincoln Kennedy went into the South Stands. Oh, back when the South Stands were a thing.
See, we were watching something. I think it was that Maradona documentary. And the fans, like, after Maradona scored.
Is that the one you talked about me?
Yes.
You told me about?
Yeah, it was tremendous, folks, by the way. Even if you don't care about soccer, it was an epic Shakespearean story. Maradona just passed last week, Diego Maradona. And we may not understand it here in America, but he was the biggest figure in the sports world for about 3, 4, 5 years in the 80s and performed miracles and was really, hand of God and all that. But they were running out of the stands after he scored a goal. And Kate, love of my life, she's like, what? Like, they just do that? And I'm like, oh, you haven't seen sports clips from the 70s, have you? Because you say Lincoln Kennedy, would that be back in the 90s? Mm-hmm. Back in the 70s, look up Doc Ellis and him going into the stands if he heard something. But the fans were pouring out of I remember the picture of Reggie Jackson, I'm going baseball seats, running through, I think it was like game 6 of the ALCS or something like that. Like, he hit a walk-off home run, and the fans just poured onto the field, and you see Reggie Jackson like running with his hands over his head just for the dugout. Forget about celebrating on the field. So it can be pretty wild out there. In the South Stands? Would you go into the South Stands, Cease?
Well, today it's all corporate wine and cheese crowd. So
well, then you could easily go into the South Stands and get some pelts. Yeah,
not like it used to be. That's for sure. Okay, well, we still have to kind of use our heartstrings, Bloom. Mm-hmm. I don't know why, sometimes, but it's not logic, right? When you think
Yeah.
with your heart, you're not using logic, you're not using rationale, you're using feelings.
Mm-hmm.
So let's get all up in the feels with week 13. Hold on. Who are they?
And it's great that if you did hold on to Kiki Cutie in any Dynasty League, there was a reason. Probably holding on to Jared Goff. It's an up and down, history here, but with the Jets still up, the Patriots still up, there's still upside. Depends on what your other options are, but Goff still has some matchups that I would hold on to him. Jonathan Taylor should be back. I don't even think he tested positive for COVID. Cecil, the story with Taylor was his girlfriend went somewhere, came back, tested positive, and thank you, Jonathan Taylor. May all the players in the league follow his example to be forthcoming, because he probably could have just not said anything, right? Played against the Titans. So just hold on to him. I don't even think he was testing positive. I haven't heard if there's been any follow-up to that. I would expect he's going to be back for a very good matchup against the Texans this week. Jamison Crowder, the Raiders, maybe Sam Darnold calms down a little bit. Christian Kirk with Jalen Ramsey on DeAndre Hopkins this week. I'm still giving him another chance. Mike Williams, I want to give him another chance because he's awesome, DJ Moore on the injury front. They're saying X-rays negative, might play. Here's the way it was phrased. I wouldn't rule him out for week 14. So I wouldn't rule him out for having some value on your roster by the end of the season, especially if PJ Walker gets there. And hold on to Smith. About his usual 75% of the snaps. I have no idea why Jeff Swaim was getting targets over him. But still, Johnny Smith has that touchdown upside in any given week, which means even if you don't want to use him, you want him to fall into enemy hands for the fantasy playoffs.
Yes. Sometimes it's about playing keep away. And sometimes it's about, taking a moment and enjoying each other's company and providing that spark and being kind. What did your dad say in Denver Bloom? Just be human.
Be a human being.
Just be a human being. Yeah. So everyone remember that out there as people go through their daily struggles. Be neighborly, be a good person, and enjoy yourself. Yeah. Right? Like Rick James. However you enjoy yourself, we enjoy you. And for participating in the show, for watching us here on our YouTube channel. So make sure to do all those YouTube things. No, that doesn't mean demonetized for saying curse words when we're 40. It's like, comment, share, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so that you never miss a vid. He's Sigmund Bloom. There's Dr. Jene Bramel. I am Cecil Lammey saying thank you all very much for watching. Stay tuned. And as always, stay frosty.